No, but you know what we used to do is...
It all started back in the 70s, when I was about 11, I suppose. I was looking through my grandmother's old things one afternoon, and I found a little old box filled with photos upon photos of two girls surrounded by fairies. I knew who they were. The Cottingley Fairies of 1917, the forged pictures of fairies that had sunk the world. And suddenly I realised it was my grandmother. She had begun the great Cottingley fairy hoax back then, when she was just 15. Grown men had fallen for it, became captivated by the story, and spent years trying to prove the fairies' existence. The fairies had some strange charm that made you forget that they weren't really there. And I fell for it. I began looking for the fairies. I looked for so long that I started to see them everywhere. Like when you're so desperate to sleep you start dreaming you are. I saw them in the shadows and reflections, but they always disappeared suddenly. Then I noticed them in the oddest of places. I found them in the birds, flowers, and the wisps of dandelion clocks. And then eventually I saw it in myself. They lived in the space between truth and lie, or belief and disbelief, or the seen and the unseen. I lost sleep at night and dreamt by day. I lived in the space between late nights and early mornings. Dreams haunted me and I followed them like will-o'-the-wisps, but perhaps that will-o'-the-wisp was just the wind in the willows. I visited my grandmother sometimes, elusively and unexpectedly. She still lives in that old house in Cottingley, aging yet still blithe and lithe, charming and disarming. We'd sit at the bottom of the garden and discuss fairies, and I understood everything in the way only children can understand things that don't make sense. The child in her understood it too, just like back in 1917. And I hope you understand it when spring comes round again, and you know that the sun falls lightly on all kind things. Change came to me, elusively and unexpectedly. I became less quiet. I went places, learned about people and things and how to live a life. My understanding of the world changed. I learnt more than I thought I understood. Life went faster, yet the fairies remained somewhere in my mind throughout my teenage years, in the peripheral of my imagination. I grew, and the fairies grew too. They were in every person I met. They still lived in the in-between spaces and waited for me in the space between childhood and adulthood. And the older I get, the more I try to be like the young girl who understood everything, especially myself. I rarely go back to the house in Cottingley these days. The memories of her are too strong. But I do keep those pictures of her in the little old box and take them out from time to time. I see her in the birds, the flowers, and the dandelion clocks. I see her in people sometimes. And finally, I see her in myself.